Please help. He's hurting my mama." The desperate scream tore through the quiet lakeside neighborhood like a thunderclap on a calm summer day. Her small voice trembled with terror and heartbreak, echoing across the sun-baked asphalt of Riverside Avenue. Little Lily Mitchell, only 6 years old, dressed in a yellow sundress now torn at the hem and streaked with dust, ran barefoot toward a line of motorcycles parked outside Pete's corner store. Her tiny feet slapped against the hot pavement as tears carved clean tracks down her flushed cheeks. In her trembling hand, she clutched a crumpled piece of paper, a child's drawing, done in crayon, showing a stick figure woman on the ground and a tall figure looming over her with angry red marks everywhere. Across the street, the bikers turned in confusion. Chrome gleamed under the afternoon sun. Leather vests shifted as broad shoulders rotated toward the sound. The largest of them, a bald man with a trimmed beard and arms covered in military tattoos, removed his helmet slowly, his expression shifting from curiosity to something much darker. But before we discover whether these intimidating strangers would answer a child's desperate plea, before we learn what happened inside that mansion, and before we understand the connection that nobody saw coming, let me tell you how this day began for Rosa Mitchell. But first, if you believe that justice should have no price tag, that courage can come from the most unexpected places, and that sometimes the people society tells you to fear are the ones who save your life, subscribe to this channel right now and hit that notification bell. We spend weeks researching these stories, interviewing real people, and crafting narratives that matter. Your subscription helps us continue bringing you stories that restore faith in humanity. Like this video if you stand against abuse in any form, and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from and whether you've ever witnessed someone step up when no one else would. Now, let's go back to where it all started. That Tuesday morning, the sun rose gently over the eastern hills, painting the lakeside town in shades of amber and gold. But Rosa Mitchell didn't have time to appreciate the beauty. Beauty was a luxury she couldn't afford. At 5:30 a.m., her alarm buzzed in the cramped, one-bedroom apartment she shared with Lily. The rent was $1,200 a month, nearly 2/3 of what she made working at the Westbrook estate. The remaining third had to cover food, utilities, Lily's school supplies, and the medical debt that haunted her like a shadow she couldn't shake. $47,000. That's what was left from Marcus's funeral and the accident that took him. Rosa pushed herself out of bed, her lower back immediately protesting. The chronic pain had been her constant companion for the past year. Too many hours bent over floors, reaching into corners, scrubbing surfaces that were already clean but never clean enough for Vincent Westbrook. In the dim light of their tiny kitchen, she prepared Lily's lunch. A peanut butter and jelly sandwich, an apple she'd saved from her own dinner, a small bag of pretzels, and a juice box. Rosa would pack herself a lunch, too, usually just crackers and whatever leftovers she could stretch. But today she noticed they were running low on everything. Payday was still 3 days away. She touched the photograph on the refrigerator. Marcus, smiling in his construction gear, hard hat pushed back on his head, that infectious grin that had made her fall in love with him 12 years ago, taken just 2 weeks before a drunk driver ran a red light and changed everything. "I'm trying, baby," she whispered to the photo. "I'm trying so hard." By 6:15, she was on the first of 2 buses that would take her across town to the Westbrook estate. The commute took 90 minutes each way. 3 hours of her day spent in transit, unpaid, just to get to a job that was slowly breaking her body and spirit. She kept Marcus's wedding photo in her work locker. Before every shift, she'd touch it, draw strength from it, remind herself why she endured. For Lily. Everything was for Lily. The Westbrook estate sat on 12 acres of prime lakeside property, worth an estimated $18 million. The main house, a sprawling monument to wealth and ego, featured white columns, imported Italian marble, floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked a private dock, and enough square footage to house 15 families comfortably. Vincent Westbrook owned it alone. At 52, Vincent had built his empire through aggressive real estate acquisitions, hostile takeovers, and a reputation for ruthlessness that made even his business partners nervous. Worth an estimated $340 million, he collected vintage cars, rare wines, and ex-wives who'd all signed ironclad NDAs as part of their divorce settlements. His current staff, those who'd survived his temper long enough to still be employed, knew to stay invisible. Rosa had learned this lesson well over her nearly 4 years of service. She arrived at 8 a.m. sharp, never early. He'd accused her of trying to inflate her hours. Never late. He'd dock her pay. The staff entrance was at the back, through the service gate that separated the help from the world Vincent inhabited. Her uniform hung in the small locker room she shared with the groundskeeper and the part-time cook, both of whom barely made eye contact anymore. They'd learned, like Rosa, that solidarity among staff was dangerous. Vincent had a way of setting people against each other, of making each person feel that their job security depended on someone else's failure. Rosa changed into her faded blue cleaning uniform, the same 2 uniforms she rotated through, washing one each night in their apartment's coin laundry. The name tag was slightly crooked. She'd sewn it back on herself after Vincent had ripped it off during one of his tirades about professional appearance. Her hands were permanently reddened from the industrial-strength chemicals he insisted she use. "I don't pay for cheap products," he told her once. "If your hands can't handle professional-grade cleaners, maybe you're not cut out for professional work." She never complained. Complaints meant termination, and termination meant homelessness. Period. By 3:30 p.m., when Lily's school let out, Rosa would take her 15-minute break to pick her up from the bus stop at the estate's main gate. Vincent had made it clear this was a generous accommodation he was extending, and that Lily was to remain invisible and silent in the staff quarters. The staff room was barely larger than a closet, a converted storage space with a small table, 2 metal chairs, and a window that looked out onto the service area. This is where Lily spent her afternoons while Rosa worked. The little girl never complained. At 6 years old, she'd already learned what her mama had learned. Silence was survival. She would sit cross-legged on the cold floor, coloring in donated coloring books that the church had given them, or drawing her own pictures on the back of old receipts Rosa saved. Through the window, she could watch her mama move from room to room in the main house, a distant figure pushing a mop, carrying supplies. Always moving, always working. "Mama," Lily had asked once, maybe 6 months ago, "why does the mean man yell at you?" Rosa had knelt down, cupped her daughter's face, and lied, with a smile. "He's just stressed, baby. Important people have a lot on their minds. It's not personal." But it was personal. Every cruel word, every impossible demand, every humiliation, it was all deeply, painfully personal. Rosa saved the fancy soap slivers that Vincent threw away, collected them for Lily's baths. She kept her cracked phone screen because fixing it would cost $70 they didn't have. She wore the same pair of work shoes until the soles separated, then glued them back together. And every day she practiced her polite voice before entering each room, modulated her tone to sound grateful, apologetic, invisible. Vincent Westbrook never said please, never said thank you. These weren't oversights, they were declarations of power. Rosa, his voice would echo through the marble halls. There's a water spot on the front window. Did you even look at your work, or do you just not care? She would rush to fix it, apologizing, explaining she must have missed it. I don't want excuses. I want results. Do it again, properly this time. He'd once dumped an entire cup of coffee on a floor she'd just finished mopping. Oops, he'd said, smirking. Guess you'll need to do this area again. And Rosa, make sure it's actually clean this time. She'd cleaned it 3 more times that day, each time with him finding some microscopic imperfection. He threw her packed lunch in the trash once. She'd left it on the break room table during her shift, and he'd walked through, seen it, and tossed it. No personal items in common areas. You know the rules. She'd worked the rest of that 12-hour shift, hungry, when she'd timidly asked for 1 day off to attend Lily's school play, giving him 3 weeks' notice. He'd reduced her hours the following week. If you're not committed to this job, I'll find someone who is. She never asked for time off again. The bathroom incident was the worst before today. He'd made her clean his master bathroom while he was showering, forcing her to work while he stood naked behind the frosted glass, commenting on her work, making her profoundly uncomfortable in ways she couldn't even articulate to herself. You're lucky I even hired someone like you, he'd told her once, his meaning clear. Do you know how many applications I get? People with real skills, real experience? I took a chance on you. Don't make me regret it. Someone like you. The phrase hung in the air, loaded with implications about her race, her class, her desperation. People who'd never been trapped might ask, why didn't she just quit? Find another job? But poverty isn't a choice. It's a cage made of circumstances. Rosa owed $47,000 in medical debt. Marcus's accident, his brief hospitalization before he died, the funeral costs, the ambulance bill, it had buried them financially. She was on a payment plan that took $300 a month, money she barely had. Their rent was due in 5 days. She had $400 in her account and needed $800 more. She had no savings, none, zero cushion between her and homelessness. She'd signed an NDA when she started. A document Vincent's lawyer had slid across the desk with barely an explanation. She'd been so desperate for the job, she'd signed without reading it carefully. Now she understood it prevented her from discussing any aspect of Mr. Westbrook's private affairs or household operations with anyone under penalty of lawsuit. She'd also signed a non-compete clause she didn't fully understand, something about not working for any of his business associates or in any properties he owned or managed, which, given his real estate empire, eliminated most high-end domestic positions in the area. He'd told her once, casually, that he knew people in the local employment offices. If someone left on bad terms, word gets around. This is a small community in the ways that matter. The threat was clear. Leave, and she'd be blacklisted. And then there was Lily. Lily, who'd already lost her father, who needed stability, who needed food and shelter and school supplies, and a mother who wasn't broken by despair. Rosa couldn't afford to lose this job, and Vincent Westbrook knew it. That's how abusers work. They find the pressure points and squeeze. On this particular Tuesday, Vincent's world was crumbling in ways Rosa knew nothing about. A major development deal had fallen through that morning. 3 investors had pulled out of a commercial project he'd leveraged himself heavily to acquire. His lawyer had called with news that one of his ex-wives was challenging her NDA in court, and his accountant had presented quarterly numbers that showed his empire wasn't growing. It was contracting. Vincent Westbrook was losing control, and he couldn't tolerate that. He arrived home at 4:47 p.m., his Mercedes spraying gravel as he took the circular driveway, too fast. Rosa heard the car, and her stomach tightened. Early arrivals were never good. She was in the study, carefully treating a stain on his imported Persian rug, a $40,000 antique he'd bought at auction to impress clients. The stain was from his own coffee cup, spilled 3 days ago, which he'd blamed on her despite the fact that she'd been off that day. She'd been working on it carefully, using the specialized cleaner the rug expert had recommended, following the instructions precisely. She heard his footsteps, heavy, angry, before she heard his voice. "Rosa!" She jumped, nearly spilling the cleaning solution. He appeared in the doorway, his silver hair disheveled, his Italian suit jacket already off, tie loosened. His face was flushed, his jaw tight. "What?" he said slowly, dangerously. "Is the status of that stain?" "I'm working on it, sir. The specialist said it would take several treatments." "Several treatments?" He stepped into the room. "I have clients coming this week. Important people, and you're telling me you can't handle a simple stain?" "Sir, I'm following the exact instructions." "I don't want excuses." His voice rose, echoing off the vaulted ceiling. "You've had 3 days. Do you have any idea what that rug cost?" Rosa's heart pounded. "Yes, sir, I'm being very careful." "Careful?" He laughed bitterly. "You ruined a $40,000 rug, and you're being careful?" In the staff quarters, visible through the study window, Lily looked up from her coloring. She'd heard the yelling before, but this sounded different. Worse. Have you ever worked for someone who made you feel worthless? Or witnessed someone being treated this way and wished you could help? Share your experience in the comments. Sometimes we need to hear that we're not alone. Vincent grabbed the cleaning bottle from Rosa's hand and hurled it against the wall. The plastic container exploded, chemical spray misting through the air like toxic rain. Rosa flinched, her arms instinctively rising to protect her face. "You think you can just coast here?" His voice was venomous now, all pretense of civility gone. "You think I won't replace you? There are 100 women who'd kill for this job." "Please, sir." Rosa's voice trembled. "I need this job. I have a daughter." "I don't care about your daughter." He stepped closer and Rosa could smell the scotch on his breath. He'd been drinking. "You work for me. You answer to me. Your problems are not my concern." His hand shot out, fast, aggressive, and grabbed her wrist. His fingers dug in hard enough to bruise, hard enough to make her gasp. "Get on your knees," he hissed, yanking her toward the stain. "And fix it now." Pain shot up Rosa's arm from his grip. Her eyes watered, but she obeyed, dropping to the floor. Her knees hit the hardwood with a dull thud that she felt in her bones. "I'm sorry, sir," she whispered, reaching for a cloth with her free hand. "I'll fix it, I promise." He released her wrist with a shove that nearly sent her sprawling. "You're pathetic, you know that." From the doorway, a small voice broke through the tension like a crack in glass. "Mama?" Lily had been drawing a picture of butterflies, purple and yellow ones, because those were her favorite colors. But the yelling had gotten louder, and through the window, she'd seen the mean man throw something. She'd seen her mama's arms go up in fear. Something in Lily's 6-year-old heart knew this was different from the other times. This was worse. She'd slipped out of the staff quarters, her small feet silent on the service hallway floors, and crept toward the study. She had to make sure Mama was okay. Now, she stood in the doorway, her yellow sundress bright against the dark wood paneling, her eyes wide with confusion and fear. "Mama?" she said again, her voice smaller. Rosa's head snapped up. Lily, no! Baby, go back to the room, please. Vincent turned, his face contorted with rage that found a new target. Get that brat out of here, now. She's just worried. Rosa started to stand. I didn't tell you to move. Vincent's hand rose, not fully formed into a fist, but the threat was clear. Stay down and finish your work. Lily took a step forward, her small hands balling into fists at her sides. Don't yell at my mama. Something flickered across Vincent's face, surprise that this child you dare speak to him, followed by indignation that anyone in his house would challenge his authority. Listen, you little. Lily, please. Rosa's voice cracked with desperation. Go back to the room, sweetheart. Mama's okay. I promise. Just go. But Vincent was beyond reason now. All the frustration of his failing empire, all the rage at his loss of control, all the entitlement that came from a lifetime of having power over people, it converged in this moment. He moved toward Lily, not to hurt her, but to forcibly remove her from the room. Rosa saw it happening as if in slow motion. She lunged forward, putting herself between Vincent and her daughter. Don't touch her. Please, I'm begging you. Vincent's palm connected with Rosa's shoulder, shoving her backward with more force than he'd intended. Or maybe exactly as much as he'd intended. Rosa stumbled, her foot caught on the edge of the rug, her arms pinwheeled, reaching for something, anything to break her fall. The corner of the mahogany desk caught her temple with a sickening crack. Everything went silent. Rosa crumpled to the floor, her body folding in on itself like paper. Blood immediately began trickling from the gash on her temple, dark red against her brown skin, pooling on the pristine hardwood floor that she polished just that morning. For 3 heartbeats, no one moved. Then Lily screamed, "Mama!" The sound that came from Lily Mitchell was primal. The kind of scream that only comes when a child watches their entire world shatter. It pierced through the mansion's expensive insulation, through the carefully curated silence that wealth demands, through every wall and window. Rosa's eyes fluttered open. Blood dripped down her face, but she was conscious. Dazed, hurt, terrified, but alive. Lily, she whispered, trying to focus. Baby, Get out! Vincent's voice boomed, but there was something different in it now. Not just anger, panic. He'd crossed a line, and some part of him knew it. Both of you, get out of my sight! But Lily wasn't looking at him anymore. She was staring at her mama on the floor, bleeding, and something inside her small chest broke open. Not with fear, but with clarity. Her daddy was in heaven. That's what Mama had told her. Daddy was watching over them, protecting them, even though they couldn't see him. Daddy, Lily whispered, her voice shaking. Help us, please help Mama. And then she ran. Not toward Rosa. She knew instinctively that getting closer would only make things worse. Not toward Vincent. Every cell in her body screamed to get away from him. She ran toward the only hope she could imagine. Her feet slapped against the marble hallway, past the kitchen where the cook froze with a knife in her hand, past the living room with its $15,000 chandelier, past the foyer with its brand staircase. The service door was heavy, but adrenaline gave her strength. She shoved it open and burst into the afternoon sunlight, so bright after the dim interior that she had to squint. The grounds stretched before her, manicured lawns, decorative hedges, the long driveway that wound down to the iron gates. The gates were open. A delivery truck had just left. God had opened the gates. Lily ran. Her chest burned. Her bare feet found every sharp pebble in the driveway, but she didn't slow down. The yellow sundress her mama had bought at the thrift store caught on a hedge, tearing a long gash in the hem, but she didn't stop. Behind her, in the study, Vincent stared at Rosa's bleeding form and felt the first real tremor of fear. This wasn't like the other times. This wasn't a raised voice or a docked paycheck. This was assault. This was visible. This was evidence. "Get up," he said, his voice tight. "Get up and clean yourself up. We'll call it an accident. You slipped. You'll say you slipped." Rosa touched her temple, her fingers coming away red. Through the ringing in her ears, through the pain, one thought crystallized. "My baby. Where's my baby? Lily?" she called weakly. "Lily." But Lily was already through the gates, already on Riverside Avenue, already running toward the motorcycles parked outside Pete's corner store. Marcus Priest Donovan had been a road angel for 8 years, but he'd been a protector his whole life. 45 years old, 6'4", 240 pounds of muscle, earned through military service and maintained through discipline. His bald head gleamed in the afternoon sun. His trimmed beard, shot through with gray, gave him a distinguished look that contrasted with the aggressive tattoos covering both arms. Military insignia, coordinates of places he'd served, and on his left forearm, a name in script, Maria, his sister. The Road Angels MC wasn't like other motorcycle clubs. They didn't run drugs or protection rackets. They didn't start bar fights or terrorize neighborhoods. They were veterans, mostly, men who'd come home from Iraq, Afghanistan, Desert Storm, Vietnam, and found civilian life hollow. Men who needed purpose. They'd found it in protection. Over the past 3 years, through a network Priest had carefully built, the Road Angels had helped 47 domestic violence victims escape their abusers. They provided safe houses, legal referrals, protection during custody hearings, and, when necessary, the kind of intimidating presence that made abusive men think twice. They'd saved 47 people. Priest still thought about the one he couldn't save. Maria, his baby sister, 10 years younger, who'd worked as a housekeeper for some wealthy family upstate. She'd called him once, her voice small, saying she was having trouble with her boss. He'd told her to quit, find something else, not to take abuse from anyone. She'd said she couldn't. She needed the money. She'd handle it. 3 months later, she was gone. Pills. So many pills. The note Chief said, "I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore. I'm so tired, Marcus. I'm so tired of being invisible." Only after her death did Priest learn about the abuse. The verbal degradation, the impossible standards, the way her employer had systematically destroyed her self-worth until she couldn't see a way out. He'd never learned the employer's name. Maria's roommate said she'd signed something, some legal paper, that scared her. She wouldn't talk about it. Priest had failed her. He'd missed the signs. He'd been deployed, then busy, then distracted by his own struggles with PTSD. He'd failed her, but he wouldn't fail anyone else. That's what he was thinking about when the little girl started screaming. Tank saw her first. "Boss, we got." But Priest had already turned. A child, barefoot, dress torn, running full speed across the road without looking for cars. A miracle she wasn't hit. Her face was streaked with tears and terror, and she was screaming words that made Priest's blood freeze. "Please, help my mama. The billionaire is beating her." She reached them and collapsed against Priest's leg, her small arms wrapping around it, her whole body shaking with sobs. Priest dropped to one knee immediately, his massive hands hovering near her shoulders. Not touching yet, he'd learned from the Army's trauma training that touch could frighten an already terrified child. Hey, His voice dropped to the gentle rumble he used with scared kids. "You're safe now. I've got you. What's your name, sweetheart?" "Lily," she sobbed, looking up at him with eyes that had seen too much. "My mama, he's hurting her. Please, you have to help her." Behind Priest, 3 other bikers had materialized. Tank, Hawk, and Ryder. They formed an instinctive, protective circle, blocking the view of the street, creating a safe pocket for this traumatized child. Tank, a massive man with a gray-streaked beard and surprisingly gentle eyes, knelt on Lily's other side. "Where's your mama, little one?" Lily thrust out her hand, and for the first time, Priest saw what she was holding, a crumpled piece of paper. He took it carefully, smoothing it out. It was a child's drawing done in crayon, a stick figure with long hair lying on the ground. Red marks everywhere. On the figure's face, arms, body. Standing over her, a tall figure with angry black scribbles around its head. At the bottom, in careful letters, "Mama hurts." Priest had seen drawings like this before, in therapy groups, in court cases, in folders on social workers' desks. Children's drawings were evidence, documentation of trauma in the only language kids had. This wasn't new abuse. This was a pattern. "Lily," he said softly, making eye contact, "where is your mama right now?" She pointed back toward the massive estate on the hill, visible over the trees. "The big house, the white one." He pushed her and she fell, and there's blood and... Her voice broke into sobs. Priest looked at the drawing again, at the red marks in various stages, some dark, some light, bruises at different ages. This had been going on for a while. He made a decision in 3 seconds. "Tank," he stood, his voice shifting into the command tone from his military days. "Stay with Lily. Call 911. Tell them we have a child reporting domestic violence at the Westbrook estate. Adult female injured. Suspected ongoing assault. Got it?" Tank nodded, already pulling out his phone, his other hand gently guiding Lily to sit on the curb, away from the bikes. "Hawk, Ryder, with me. We ride in quiet until we're through the gates, then full throttle. This is a rescue op, not a confrontation. We secure the victim. We protect until authorities arrive. Rules of engagement? Defensive only," Hawk confirmed. "Protect, don't escalate. Unless he's actively hurting her," Ryder added, cracking his knuckles. "Then all bets are off." Priest looked down at Lily one more time. She'd stopped sobbing, watching him with something that looked like hope. "We're gonna bring your mama back, Lily. I promise you. Your daddy's watching over both of you. And we're not gonna let anything else happen to her. Okay?" Lily nodded, clutching Tank's leather vest like a lifeline. Priest swung onto his Harley. The engine rumbled to life, followed by Hawks and Riders. The sound made Lily jump, but Tank murmured something to her, and she watched them with wide eyes. As they pulled away from the curb, Priest felt it, that familiar sensation from combat, when everything sharpens and focuses. When training takes over and fear becomes fuel. He thought of Maria, of the call he never made, the questions he never asked, the intervention he never staged. Not this time. This time, he'd be there. The Westbrook estate was less than half a mile away, but to Priest, it felt like miles. They rode hard, but not recklessly, keeping tight formation. Hawk on his left, Ryder on his right. 3 combat veterans, with a combined 40 years of military service, are now riding to save a woman they'd never met because a child had the courage to ask for help. The iron gates came into view, still open, that delivery truck's departure, a window of grace. They didn't slow down. The Harleys roared through the gates, up the circular driveway, gravel spraying from their tires. The sound echoed off the white columns like thunder, announcing their arrival, destroying the carefully cultivated silence that wealth demanded. The priest killed his engine first. Hawk and Ryder flanked him, engines cutting, sudden silence more ominous than the noise. The front door of the mansion was closed, but through the windows, Priest could see movement. A figure, female, small, stumbling through the hallway. Back entrance, he said. Hawk, circle right. Ryder, left. I'm going through the front. Reconvene at first visual of the victim. Oh. They moved with military precision. Years of training, making them fluid and synchronized. Priest took the front steps, 3 at a time. The door was locked, but he didn't hesitate. He hammered on it with his fist. Boom, 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 the sound like artillery fire. Open up! This is a welfare check. Inside, Vincent froze. He'd been trying to get Rosa to stand, to clean up, to hide the evidence. Now, there were bikers at his door, and his carefully controlled world was spiraling into chaos. Who the hell? He started toward the door. Rosa, still dazed, blood soaking through the towel she held to her temple, felt a surge of something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Lily had made it. Lily had found help. Her baby had saved her. If you saw a child running and screaming for help, would you stop? Or would you assume someone else would handle it? Drop a comment, because the bystander effect is real, and sometimes all it takes is one person to make a difference. The front door swung open, and Vincent Westbrook stood framed in the doorway, his face flushed with a mixture of rage and confusion. Who the hell do you think you are? He sputtered, his voice carrying the false authority of someone accustomed to intimidating people. This is private property. Get off my land before I call the police. Priest didn't move. He stood on the top step, eye level with Vincent now, and the size difference was immediately apparent. Priest had 4 inches and 50 pounds of muscle on the Billionaire. But more than that, he had something Vincent had never developed. The calm, lethal presence of a man trained to handle actual threats. We got a call, Priest said, his voice low and steady. A little girl came running to us, screaming that her mama was being hurt. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to step aside. We're going to check on the woman and make sure she's safe. And we're going to wait for the police to arrive, which, by the way, are already on their way. Vincent's eyes widened slightly at the mention of police, but his ego wouldn't let him back down. That's ridiculous. There's been a misunderstanding. My employee had an accident. Your employee, Priest interrupted, has a 6-year-old daughter who just showed me a drawing of her mama covered in bruises. So unless you want to tell me that kid is lying, I suggest you move. Vincent's jaw tightened. Behind him, in the hallway, Rosa appeared, stumbling slightly, one hand pressed to her bleeding temple, the other reaching out to steady herself against the wall. Priest saw her and everything clicked into focus. The way she held herself, hunched and protective, the blood on her face, the fear in her eyes, the uniform that marked her as staff, as beneath notice, as disposable. He'd seen it before. In his sister's posture in those last months. In the women who'd come to the road angels for help. In the way abuse makes people fold in on themselves. Trying to take up less space. Trying not to provoke. Ma'am, Priest called past Vincent, his voice gentling. Are you Rosa Mitchell? She nodded weakly, surprised he knew her name. Pause. Your daughter Lily sent us. She's safe. She's with my crew. And we're here to make sure you're safe too. Pause. Something broke in Rosa's face. Relief so profound, it manifested as tears. Lily was safe. Whatever happened to her now, Lily was safe. Pause. She doesn't need your help, Vincent snapped, moving to block Priest's view. This is a private matter between employer and employee. The moment you put hands on her, a new voice cut in from the side. It stopped being private. Hawk had circled around and now stood at the corner of the house, his lean frame deceptively dangerous. Former army sniper, patience like stone, and eyes that missed nothing. Ryder appeared from the other side, completing the triangle. Combat engineer, expert in tactical positioning, and absolutely done with rich men who hurt women. Vincent suddenly realized he was surrounded, and for the first time in his adult life, money couldn't save him. These men didn't care about his net worth or his connections. They'd walked into his castle like it was made of paper. "Get out of my house," Vincent said, but his voice had lost its edge. "All of you, now." Priest took one step forward, and Vincent instinctively took one step back. That single exchange, the advance and retreat, shifted the power dynamic completely. "Here's what I see," Priest said, his voice calm, but carrying the weight of authority. "I see a woman bleeding from a head wound. I see signs of fear and long-term intimidation. I see a man who's used to getting his way through money and threats. And I see a little girl who was so terrified for her mother that she ran barefoot into the street, begging strangers for help." He took another step forward. Vincent retreated again, now fully inside his own house, being backed up by an intruder. "So you're going to step aside, and I'm going to check on that woman. And if you try to stop me, I promise you'll regret it." "You're threatening me?" Vincent's voice rose. "In my own home? I'll have you arrested." "Good," Priest said. "The police are already coming. They can sort it out when they get here. But until then, that woman is under my protection." Rosa watched this unfold as if from a distance, her head throbbing, her thoughts fuzzy from the impact. These men, these terrifying-looking bikers with their tattoos and leather and motorcycles, had come because Lily asked them to. Her 6-year-old daughter had found the courage Rosa couldn't find in 4 years. Priest moved past Vincent with surprising ease, the billionaire simply stepping aside, as if his authority had evaporated the moment someone challenged it directly. Priest approached Rosa slowly, his hands visible, his posture non-threatening despite his size. "Mrs. Mitchell, my name is Marcus Donovan. People call me Priest. Your daughter showed me your drawings. Can you tell me what happened here?" Rosa opened her mouth, years of conditioning screaming at her to protect her abuser, to lie, to cover it up. I fell. I was cleaning and Rosa. Priest's voice was gentle but firm. "I was a military policeman for 12 years. I know what assault looks like. I know what fear looks like. And I know what a head wound from a fall looks like, versus a head wound from being pushed. You don't owe him your silence." Behind them, Vincent made a strangled sound of protest. "She's lying if she says Nobody's talking to you," Hawk said from his position near the door, his tone flat and final. Rosa looked into Priest's eyes and saw something she hadn't seen in so long, someone who believed her without question, who saw her as a person worth protecting, who wasn't dismissing her pain. "He pushed me," she whispered. "He was angry about a stain on the rug and Lily came in and he pushed me and I fell and hit the desk." "Thank you for telling me the truth," Priest said. "Can you walk?" She nodded. "Good. I'm going to help you to the couch, and then we're going to wait for the EMTs and the police. Is that okay?" She nodded again, and when he offered his arm, she took it. His leather vest was warm under her hand, solid and real, and for the first time in 4 years, she felt protected instead of threatened by a man's strength. As Priest guided her to the living room couch, Vincent followed, his voice rising. "This is kidnapping. You can't just—" "We're not taking her anywhere," Ryder said, positioning himself between Vincent and Rosa. We're keeping her safe until the authorities arrive. There's a difference. She works for me. She's in my house. And she's bleeding in your house, Priest countered, helping Rosa sit. Which is going to require some explaining when the police get here. Vincent paced like a caged animal, his mind racing through options. Call his lawyer. Yes, his lawyer would fix this. His lawyer always fixed things. He pulled out his phone, but Hawk was suddenly there, his hand on Vincent's wrist. I wouldn't do that yet. Wait for the police. Make all the calls you want after they arrive. Get your hands off me. Vincent tried to pull away, but Hawk's grip was iron. I'm not hurting you, Hawk said quietly, but you're not making calls until the cops get here. Evidence chain. You understand. Vincent's face went purple. I'm Vincent Westbrook. Do you have any idea who I am? I own half this county. One phone call and I'll destroy you. All of you. I'll sue you for everything you have. Everything I have, Priest said from his position next to Rosa, is a 10-year-old motorcycle and a strong sense of right and wrong. So sue away. Tank's voice crackled over Priest's radio. Boss Police ETA 3 minutes. EMTs right behind them. The girl's asking about her mama. Priest clicked his radio. Tell her mama's safe, and we're taking good care of her. She's a hero, Tank. She saved her mama's life today. Rosa made a small sound, half sob, half laugh. Her baby. Her brave, wonderful baby. Vincent saw his controls slipping away completely, and did what cornered narcissists always do. He attacked. You think you're heroes? You're criminals. Thugs. You broke into my home. Door was unlocked. Ryder pointed out. We walked in after you opened it. This is entrapment. That's not what entrapment means, Hawk said. Vincent turned his fury on Rosa. This is all your fault. You put ideas in that kid's head. You're trying to set me up. Priest stood, placing himself between Vincent and Rosa. The movement was fluid, practiced, protective. Mr. Westbrook, I'm going to suggest very strongly that you stop talking right now. Every word out of your mouth is making this worse for you. Worse for me? Vincent's voice hit a pitch of hysteria. I'm the victim here. You people invaded my home. We responded to a child's call for help. Priest corrected. Which is exactly what we'll tell the police, along with the fact that we found a woman bleeding from a head wound, and a man who's more concerned about his reputation than her safety. The distant wail of sirens cut through the tension, growing louder by the second. Vincent's eyes darted toward the window, calculation and panic warring on his face. I have rights. I have lawyers. You can't prove anything. Actually, Priest said, pulling out his phone, I've been recording this entire conversation. You admitted she works for you. She's in your house bleeding, and you just threatened to destroy us for helping her. That's going to be interesting for the police to hear. Vincent lunged forward, hand outstretched for the phone. Give me that. It was the stupidest thing he could have done. Priest caught Vincent's wrist mid-lunge with his left hand while simultaneously sidestepping, using Vincent's own momentum against him. It was a move from military hand-to-hand combat training, efficient, controlled, and devastatingly effective. Vincent found himself spun around, his arm twisted behind his back in a lock that was painful but not damaging. Priest controlled him with minimal effort, like a parent restraining a tantrum-throwing child. Priest said calmly, "Was assault on 3 witnesses. You just made this a lot easier for everyone." Vincent struggled, his face pressed against his own wall, his expensive suit wrinkling. "Let go of me. This is assault. I'll have you arrested." "I'm restraining someone who just attacked me," Priest corrected. "There's a legal difference. And I'm going to hold you exactly like this until the police arrive. Which should be. He glanced toward the window, where red and blue lights were now visible. Right about now. The sirens stopped, car doors slammed, radio chatter. Hawk moved to the front door and opened it, stepping back with his hands clearly visible. Officers, in here. Adult female with head injury, situation contained. 2 police officers entered, hands near their weapons but not drawn, assessing the scene with trained eyes. 3 bikers, 1 in leather restraining a well-dressed man, 1 injured woman on the couch, signs of struggle. The lead officer was a woman in her 40s, Detective Sarah Chen, 15-year veteran with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Someone want to tell me what's going on here? Priest didn't release Vincent, but turned his head toward her. Ma'am, my name is Marcus Donovan. We received a call from a 6-year-old girl who said her mother was being beaten. We responded and found Mrs. Rosa Mitchell here with a bleeding head wound. This man, Vincent Westbrook, the homeowner, became aggressive when we attempted to provide aid and wait for your arrival. He just physically lunged at me 30 seconds ago, which is why I'm restraining him. There it was. The moment of truth. Rosa could lie, protect her abuser, keep her job, maintain the status quo. Or she could tell the truth and face an uncertain future. She thought of Lily. Brave Lily, who'd run for help when Rosa couldn't help herself. Yes, Rosa said, her voice stronger now. He pushed me. I fell and hit my head on the desk. He was angry about a stain on his rug. This isn't the first time he's hurt me before. Vincent thrashed in Priest's grip. That's a lie. She's lying. She fell on her own. She's trying to extort me. Chen's expression hardened. She'd been a cop long enough to recognize both truth and desperate deflection. Mr. Donovan, you can release Mr. Westbrook now. Priest let go smoothly, stepping back with his hands visible. Vincent stumbled forward, immediately turning to face them, his face red and furious. Finally, now arrest these men for breaking and entering. Chen ignored him, her attention on Rosa. Mrs. Mitchell, can you tell me exactly what happened? Take your time. As Rosa recounted the day's events, the impossible standards, the escalating anger, the physical shove, the fall, Chen's partner, Officer Martinez, was doing what good cops do, gathering evidence. He photographed Rosa's head wound, the blood on the floor, the position of the desk, the overturned cleaning supplies. He noticed older bruises on Rosa's arms, partially hidden by her uniform sleeves, and photographed those too. Mrs. Mitchell, he said gently, those bruises on your arms. How old are they? Rosa pulled up her sleeve, revealing 4 finger-shaped bruises in various stages of healing, purple, yellow, green, a timeline of abuse. A week ago, he grabbed me when I was too slow bringing his lunch. Vincent exploded. This is ridiculous. I want my lawyer. I'm not saying another word without my lawyer present. That's probably wise, Chen said dryly. She turned to Martinez. Check the security system. Place like this has to have cameras. Vincent's face went white. The cameras. He'd forgotten about the cameras. Martinez disappeared toward the security office. Chen continued questioning Rosa, her notepad filling with details. The 4 years of employment, the NDAs, the impossible standards, the systematic degradation, the financial trap that kept Rosa there. Priest stood with Hawk and Ryder near the window, letting the professionals work, but ready if needed. He watched Rosa transform minute by minute, from frightened victim to empowered survivor. Each truth she spoke seemed to strengthen her. Martinez returned, his expression grim. Detective, you need to see this. Chen followed him to the security office. 2 minutes later, she returned with a USB drive, and an expression that had moved from professional concern to cold fury. "Mr. Westbrook," she said, her voice carefully controlled, "we've reviewed your security footage. It clearly shows you grabbing Mrs. Mitchell's wrist, forcing her to the ground, and then pushing her when she tried to protect her daughter. It also shows the child's presence and her fleeing the scene. Is there anything you'd like to say about that?" Vincent's mouth opened and closed like a fish. That's not. The angle doesn't show. My lawyer." "Your lawyer can meet you at the station," Chen interrupted. She pulled out her handcuffs. "Vincent Westbrook, you're under arrest for assault and battery. You have the right to remain silent." As she read him his Miranda rights, Vincent's face cycled through disbelief, rage, and finally, fear. Real fear. The kind that comes when you realize money might not save you this time. "This is insane," he shouted as Chen cuffed him. "Do you know who I am? I'll have your badge, both of you. I know the police commissioner." "Then you can discuss it with him from jail," Chen said, guiding him toward the door. Martinez approached the bikers. "We'll need statements from all of you." "Happy to provide them," Priest said. "We've got nothing to hide. We responded to a child's call for help. We documented everything. We didn't escalate the situation, and we waited for you to arrive." Martinez nodded, a hint of respect in his eyes. "That's exactly how it should be done. Thank you for not making this messier than it needed to be." As Vincent was led out in handcuffs, past his expensive cars and perfect lawn, cameras from a news van that had somehow already arrived began flashing. A neighbor must have called the media. Or maybe it was the universe's sense of justice. Vincent Westbrook, real estate mogul, pillar of the community, was having his perp walk broadcast for the world to see. The EMTs had arrived and were treating Rosa's head wound. 6 stitches, mild concussion, instructions to watch for symptoms, when Tank's voice crackled over the radio. "Boss, the kid's getting anxious. Can she see her mama?" Priest looked at Chen, who nodded. "Bring her in." 30 seconds later, Lily burst through the door, Tank's large hand gently guiding her. The moment she saw Rosa, she let out a sob and ran. "Mama." Rosa opened her arms and Lily crashed into them, both of them crying, holding each other like the world might vanish if they let go. "I'm okay, baby," Rosa whispered into her daughter's hair. "I'm okay. You saved me. You were so brave." "I was scared," Lily sobbed. "I thought he was going to hurt you really bad. But you ran for help. You did exactly the right thing. You're my hero, Lily. You're my brave, brave girl." Priest watched from across the room, his throat tight. He thought of Maria, of the call that never came, of the little girl who'd had the courage his sister never found. Tank appeared next to him, his voice gruff. "Hell of a kid." "Yeah," Priest agreed. "Hell of a kid." Detective Chen approached them, her expression softer now. "Mr. Donovan, I want to thank you and your crew. A lot of people would have kept writing, assumed it wasn't their problem." "Couldn't do that, ma'am," Priest said. "Not after." He stopped, the words catching. Chen waited, and something in her patient silence made him continue. "I had a sister, Maria. She was in a situation like this. I didn't see it in time. She didn't make it." He paused, his jaw tight. "When that little girl came running, asking for help, I saw a second chance." Chen nodded slowly. "I'm sorry about your sister, but what you did today, you saved 2 lives. That counts for something." She handed him a business card. "We're going to need detailed statements from all of you. Can you come by the station tomorrow?" "Absolutely," Priest said. "Whatever you need." As Chen walked away to coordinate with the EMTs, Ryder muttered, "Did a cop just thank us? Is this real life? Enjoy it while it lasts." Hawk said, "Tomorrow we go back to being scary bikers." But Priest wasn't listening. He was watching Rosa and Lily, their foreheads pressed together, whispering to each other. He was thinking about Maria, about all the victims who never got their moment of rescue, about the 47 people the road angels had helped, and now 48. 48 second chances. It didn't bring Maria back. Nothing would. But maybe, just maybe, it meant her death hadn't been for nothing. The bystander effect is real. We often assume someone else will help. But Priest and his crew didn't hesitate. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to choose between getting involved or walking away? What did you do? Share your story in the comments. Your experience might inspire someone else to act when it matters. Vincent Westbrook had walked through his front door thousands of times. Always in control, always commanding, always the master of his domain. This time was different. This time, his hands were cuffed behind his back. This time, Detective Chen's firm grip guided his steps. This time, cameras flashed like lightning as he was led down his own marble steps toward a police cruiser. Mr. Westbrook, did you assault your employee? Is it true her daughter witnessed the attack? How do you respond to allegations of a pattern of abuse? The questions came from reporters who'd materialized like vultures, 3 news vans, multiple smartphone cameras, neighbors who'd suddenly developed an interest in the commotion at the mansion they'd ignored for years. Vincent tried to hide his face, turning away from the cameras, but there was nowhere to hide. His silver hair was disheveled. His expensive suit was wrinkled. His face was twisted in an expression of humiliated rage. No comment, his lawyer shouted, appearing from nowhere, racing up the driveway. My client has no comment. This is a misunderstanding that will be cleared up. But the cameras had already captured everything they needed. The billionaire in handcuffs, the police cruiser, the mansion that suddenly looked less like a palace and more like a crime scene. Detective Chen paused before placing Vincent in the car. Mr. Westbrook, given the seriousness of the assault and the presence of security footage, I'm recommending you be held without bail until arraignment. You have substantial resources and pose a flight risk. Vincent's eyes went wide. You can't. I have rights. I need to manage my business. I can't stay in jail. You'll have your arraignment in the morning, Chen said, unmoved. Until then, you'll be our guest. Duck your head. She guided him into the cruiser with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. The door closed with a solid thunk that sounded, to Vincent, like the end of everything. As the car pulled away, reporters rushed toward the mansion, looking for anyone who'd talk. They found Rosa. Rosa sat on the back of the ambulance, Lily pressed against her side, an EMT finishing the bandage on her temple. Officer Martinez stood nearby, protective but giving her space. A reporter approached carefully, microphone in hand. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm Jennifer Torres with Channel 7 News. Can you tell us what happened here today? Rosa looked at the camera, then at Lily, then back at the reporter. Every instinct screamed at her to say nothing, to hide, to protect her abuser, because that's what years of conditioning had taught her. But then she felt Lily's small hand squeeze hers, and she remembered. Her daughter had found the courage to run for help. The least Rosa could do was find the courage to speak the truth. My name is Rosa Mitchell, she said, her voice quiet but clear. I've worked for Mr. Westbrook for almost 4 years. Today, he assaulted me in front of my 6-year-old daughter. He pushed me, and I hit my head on his desk. This wasn't the first time he's hurt me, but it's the last time. The reporter's eyes widened. Are you saying this was part of a pattern? Rosa nodded. He would grab me, yell at me, make me work impossible hours, threaten to fire me if I complained. I stayed because I needed the job, because I'm a widow with a daughter to support. Because he made me sign papers I didn't fully understand, that scared me. But today, my daughter saved me. She ran for help when I couldn't help myself. She pulled Lily closer, And these men, these bikers that people cross the street to avoid, they were the ones who came. They protected us. They stayed with us. They treated us with more dignity in 10 minutes than I've received in 4 years of employment. Behind her, Priest stood with his crew, uncomfortable with the attention, but present nonetheless. Tank shifted his weight. Hawk looked at his boots. Ryder crossed his arms but said nothing. Mrs. Mitchell, another reporter, called out, "What do you want people to know?" Rosa thought for a moment, choosing her words carefully. "I want people to know that abuse doesn't just happen in homes. It happens in workplaces. It happens when someone has power over you. Economic power, social power, legal power. I want people to know that if you see something, say something. Don't assume someone else will help. Don't assume the victim will ask for help. Sometimes they can't." Her voice strengthened. "And I want people to know that my daughter is the bravest person I've ever met. At 6 years old, she did what I couldn't do for myself. She asked for help. She saved us both." Lily buried her face in her mother's side, overwhelmed by the attention. But Rosa could feel her daughter's shoulders straightening with pride. "One more question," Jennifer Torres said. "What happens now?" Rosa looked at Detective Chen, who nodded encouragingly. "Now? Now I press charges. Now I tell the truth. Now I make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else." The cameras kept rolling, and by 6 p.m. that evening, Rosa Mitchell's face would be on every local news channel. By 8 p.m., the story would go viral on social media. By midnight, it would be picked up by national news outlets. "Bikers save janitor and child from abusive billionaire" would trend on Twitter for 3 days straight. At the police station, Detective Chen sat in an interview room, reviewing the evidence that had accumulated in just 2 hours. The security footage was damning. Multiple angles showed Vincent grabbing Rosa's wrist, forcing her to the ground, shoving her when she tried to protect Lily. But more than that, the footage went back months. Chen had spent the last hour reviewing archived recordings, and what she found made her stomach turn. January 15th, Vincent throwing a coffee cup that narrowly missed Rosa's head. February 3rd, Vincent grabbing Rosa by the arm hard enough to leave bruises, berating her for a water spot on a glass. March 22nd, Vincent backing Rosa into a corner, his face inches from hers, screaming while she cowered. April 8th, Vincent knocking cleaning supplies out of Rosa's hands, forcing her to clean the same floor 3 times. Each incident preserved in high definition, time-stamped and dated, a digital record of systematic abuse. But the real breakthrough came when Martinez discovered something unexpected. The security system had been regularly backing up footage to an external drive, and someone had been making copies. That someone was Daniel Park, Vincent's 23-year-old IT consultant, who'd installed the system 2 years ago and had been quietly documenting everything, waiting for the right moment. Chen brought him in for an interview. "Why did you keep copies?" she asked. Daniel, a slight Korean-American kid with glasses and a nervous energy, leaned forward. "Because I saw what he was doing. To Rosa. To the groundskeeper before he quit. To the cook who left last year. I saw it all on the monitors and I knew it was wrong. But I'm just an IT guy. Who's going to believe me over a billionaire?" "So you documented it. Every incident, every assault. I timestamped them, categorized them, kept everything organized. I was going to. I don't know what I was going to do with it. Give it to a lawyer? Send it to the news? But I knew someone would need it eventually." He pulled out a hard drive from his backpack. "This has everything. 2 years of footage. Not just the abuse, also the NDAs he made people sign, the way he docked their pay illegally, the safety violations he ignored, everything." Chen took the drive like it was made of gold. "Mr. Park, You may have just built our entire case. Good, Daniel said, his jaw set. Because Rosa has a kid, and I kept thinking, what if my mom was in that situation? What if someone treated my sister that way? I had to do something. Within the hour, Chen was on the phone with the district attorney's office. We've got assault, battery, labor law violations, intimidation, and illegal surveillance. He was recording his employee without her consent in private areas. The security footage shows a pattern of abuse going back 2 years. Multiple witnesses. Physical evidence. And, she paused, pulling up the next file. We've got 3 former employees who've come forward in the last hour after seeing the news. They all have similar stories. The DA's voice crackled through the speaker. How similar? Identical pattern. Verbal abuse escalating to physical. Impossible standards. Economic coercion. NDAs used to silence them. Sarah, one of them said she tried to file a report 2 years ago, but the responding officer told her it was a civil employment matter and didn't take a statement. A long pause. Get me everything. Every document, every witness statement, every frame of footage. We're not just charging him with assault. We're going after him for labor trafficking, witness intimidation, and every other charge that will stick. This man used his wealth to create a system of abuse, and we're going to dismantle it. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Already on it. By 9 p.m., Rosa and Lily were at the Road Angels NC Clubhouse, a converted warehouse on the industrial side of town that looked rough from the outside, but was surprisingly welcoming inside. The main room had mismatched furniture, a pool table, a kitchen area that smelled like coffee and motor oil, and walls covered in military patches, motorcycle memorabilia, and photos of the members with the people they'd helped over the years. 47 faces smiled from those photos. Now, there would be 48 and 49. Tank had prepared one of the back rooms, usually used for members who needed a place to crash, with clean sheets, extra blankets, and a stuffed bear he'd bought from the convenience store on the way over. It's not much, he said gruffly, setting the bear on the bed. But it's safe. Door locks from the inside, bathrooms across the hall. Nobody comes back here without permission. Lily clutched the stuffed bear immediately, her eyes wide. Is this for me? Yeah, kiddo. Every hero needs a sidekick, right? She hugged the bear, then impulsively hugged Tank's leg. Thank you, Mr. Tank. The big man's eyes went suspiciously misty. He cleared his throat. You're welcome, little one. Your mama's gonna get you settled. We'll be right outside if you need anything. As Tank left, Rosa sat on the bed with Lily, the weight of the day finally catching up with her. Her head throbbed, despite the painkillers. Her body ached. But more than the physical pain, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. She felt safe. Mama? Lily whispered, curled against her side. Are we going to be okay? Rosa kissed her daughter's forehead. Yes, baby. We're going to be okay. Better than okay. You know why? Why? Because you were brave today. You ran for help when I couldn't. You saved us both. And now we're surrounded by people who want to help us. Real help. Not the kind that comes with strings attached. I was really scared, Lily admitted. But I remembered what Daddy used to say. That angels come when you need them most. And I thought, maybe the bikers are angels. Rosa's throat tightened. Maybe they are, sweetheart. Maybe they are. Lily fell asleep within minutes, exhausted by trauma and relief. Rosa carefully extracted herself and stepped into the main room. Priest sat at the kitchen table, nursing a cup of coffee, staring at his phone. He looked up when she entered. How is she? He asked. Asleep. That stuffed bear might be her new best friend. Priest smiled slightly. Tank's got a soft spot for kids, won't admit it, but he does. Rosa sat across from him, her hands wrapped around the mug of tea Hawk had left for her. For a long moment, they sat in comfortable silence. "Why did you help us?" Rosa finally asked. "You don't know us." Lily could have been, I don't know, confused or lying or... "She wasn't lying," Priest interrupted gently. "I've seen enough abuse cases to recognize the signs. The fear in her eyes, the way she clutched that drawing like evidence. Kids don't fake that kind of terror." He paused, his jaw working. "And I didn't help because I'm a good person. I helped because I failed to help when it mattered most." Rosa waited, sensing he needed to tell this story. "I had a sister," Priest began, his voice rough. "Maria, 10 years younger than me, beautiful, smart, wanted to be a teacher. She took a job as a housekeeper for some wealthy family upstate to pay for college. I was deployed, then dealing with my own stuff when I got back. We talked on the phone, but I didn't see what was happening." He stared into his coffee. "She told me once that her boss was difficult, that the job was stressful. I told her to quit, find something else. She said she couldn't, that she needed the money. I didn't push. I figured she was an adult. She'd figure it out." Rosa's heart clenched, knowing where this was going. 3 months later, she took a bottle of pills, left a note saying she was tired of being invisible, tired of being treated like she didn't matter, tired of being afraid. His voice cracked slightly. "I found out after she died that her employer had been abusing her. Verbal at first, then physical. Made her sign papers that scared her, isolated her from friends. To actually help instead of giving useless advice. To be there when someone needed me." "You did help," Rosa said firmly. "You saved us, both of us." Priest nodded slowly. "Maybe. Or maybe you and Lily saved me, gave me a purpose again, a reminder that the work we do matters." Tank emerged from a back room, breaking the moment. "Boss, got a call from Detective Chen. She wants us to know that 3 of Westbrook's former employees came forward after seeing the news. They're building a hell of a case." Priest straightened. "Good. The more voices, the harder he falls." "There's more," Tank continued. "Someone started a GoFundMe for Rosa and Lily. Goal was $10,000 for legal fees and relocation. It's already at $47,000 and climbing." Rosa's hand flew to her mouth. "What? That's not possible." "It's very possible," Hawk said, appearing with his laptop. "Look." He turned the screen to show her. The page was titled, "Help Rosa and Lily Rebuild Their Lives," and featured a photo someone had taken of her sitting in the ambulance with Lily, the biker standing protectively nearby. The comments section was flooded. "This woman's courage is inspiring. Donated $100. My mom was in an abusive situation like this. Thank God for people like these bikers. Donated $500. I was in a similar job situation. Nobody helped me. I'm so glad Rosa had people who cared. Donated $50. Real men protect women and children. These bikers are heroes. Donated $200. The donations kept scrolling. $20 here, $500 there, $1,000 from someone who wrote, "My daughter worked for a man like this. She didn't make it. Please use this to build a better life." Rosa couldn't stop the tears. I don't understand. Why are strangers helping us?" "Because your story matters," Priest said simply. "Because people are tired of seeing abusers get away with it. Because Lily's courage inspired them. Because sometimes the world actually does the right thing." The next morning, Rosa's phone rang. She almost didn't answer. Too many years of dreading phone calls from Vincent. But Priest encouraged her. "Mrs. Mitchell, this is Detective Chen. I wanted to update you on the case." Rosa put it on speaker so Lily could hear. Okay, Vincent Westbrook was arraigned this morning. He's being charged with felony assault and battery, multiple labor law violations, witness intimidation, and illegal surveillance. The judge denied bail, citing flight risk and the seriousness of the charges. He's currently in county jail, awaiting trial. Rosa's breath caught. He's actually in jail? He is. And Mrs. Mitchell, there's more. We've reviewed the security footage Mr. Park provided. It shows a pattern of abuse going back 2 years. We've also been contacted by 6 former employees, not 3, 6, who all have similar stories. Each one signed NDAs that we believe were obtained through coercion and duress, which makes them unenforceable. What does that mean? It means they can testify. It means we're building a case that shows systematic abuse, not just one bad day. It means he's looking at serious prison time. 7 to 10 years if convicted on all counts. 7 to 10 years. Rosa tried to process it. The man who'd made her life hell for 4 years would spend longer in prison than he'd employed her. There's more. Chen continued. The district attorney's office is freezing Westbrook's assets, pending the outcome of the case. There's going to be a victim's compensation fund. You'll receive back wages for all the illegal pay docking, damages for the assault, and medical coverage for your injuries. You won't have to worry about money while you figure out your next steps. Rosa's hand shook. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. You did the hard part. You told the truth. Now the system is actually working like it's supposed to. After Chen hung up, Rosa sat in stunned silence. Lily climbed into her lap. Mama, does this mean the mean man can't hurt us anymore? Rosa hugged her daughter tightly. No, baby. He can't hurt us anymore. We're safe. We're actually safe. Tank appeared in the doorway. Oz wanted me to tell you, we've got 3 local businesses that called this morning offering you job interviews. Fair wages, benefits, normal hours. You've got options now, Rosa. Options. That word again. After 4 years of having no options, no choices, no control, now she had options. And, Tank added with a grin, the GoFundMe hit $230,000 overnight. People from all over the country are donating. You're going viral, lady. In a good way. Rosa laughed through her tears. 24 hours ago, she'd been on the floor of Vincent's study, bleeding and terrified. Now she was surrounded by bikers who'd become family, had job offers waiting, had financial security for the first time since Marcus died, and had the entire system, the police, the DA, the community, finally on her side. Mama, Lily whispered, are we going to be okay? Rosa kissed her daughter's head. We're going to be better than okay, baby. We're going to be happy. Rosa stayed in an abusive job for 4 years because she felt trapped. How many people do you think are in similar situations right now? Too afraid to leave, too desperate to speak up. Please share your thoughts on what needs to change in our society to better protect vulnerable workers. Your voice matters. The October sun cast golden light across Riverside Avenue as Rosa Mitchell stood in front of a modest 2-bedroom apartment on the 2nd floor of a renovated building. The paint was fresh cream, the windows large and clean, and through them she could see hardwood floors that she wouldn't have to scrub on her knees ever again. Mama, is this really ours? Lily asked, her hand clutching Rosa's tightly. Yes, baby, Rosa said, her voice thick with emotion. This is really ours. The apartment was owned by Frank Morrison, a retired veteran and friend of the Road Angels who'd offered Rosa a rent-controlled lease. $650 a month for 2 bedrooms in a safe neighborhood with good schools nearby. It was half what she'd been paying for their old 1-bedroom. A moving truck pulled up, and Rosa laughed when she saw who was driving it. Tank, Hawk, Ryder, and Priest climbed out, along with 3 other Road Angels members she'd gotten to know over the past months. "Told you we'd help you move," Priest said, lowering the truck's ramp. "Though I gotta say, you don't have much stuff." "That's because everything I own fits in 12 boxes," Rosa replied. "Turns out you don't accumulate much when you're barely surviving." "Well," Tank said, hefting a box that probably weighed nothing to him, "that's about to change. We've got donations. Lots of donations." They weren't kidding. Over the next 2 hours, Rosa watched in amazement as her empty apartment transformed. A couch, worn but comfortable, went into the living room. A kitchen table with 4 mismatched chairs. A bed frame for each bedroom. Dishes, pots, pans, utensils, lamps, curtains, even artwork for the walls. "Where did all this come from?" Rosa asked, overwhelmed. "Community donations," Hawk explained, assembling Lily's bed frame with the efficiency of a man who'd built far more complicated things in combat. "Church drives, neighborhood contributions, people who heard your story and wanted to help. You'd be surprised how generous folks can be when they see real need." Ryder carried in a bookshelf, handmade, sturdy oak, clearly crafted with care. "Made this one myself," he said gruffly. "Figure the kid needs somewhere for books. Every kid should have books." Lily ran her small hands over the smooth wood, her eyes wide. "You made this for me?" "Sure did, kiddo. See this here?" He pointed to a small engraving on the side, a heart with wings. "That's the mark of bravery, because you're the bravest girl I know." Lily threw her arms around his leg, and Ryder, a man who diffused bombs in Fallujah without flinching, looked like he might cry. By afternoon, the apartment was furnished, organized, and starting to feel like home. Priest hung a picture above the fireplace, the drawing Lily had done of all of them together, now professionally framed. "There," he said, stepping back. "Now it's official." Rosa stood in her living room, and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not just safety, but actual peace. The kind that comes when you're not constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. "Thank you," she said to the room full of bikers. "I don't know how to repay." "You don't repay family," Tank interrupted. "That's not how this works." "Family," Rosa repeated softly. The word felt foreign and wonderful all at once. Rosa's first day at Lakeside Community Center had been 2 months ago, but she still marveled at the difference every morning. She arrived at 8 a.m., not 6 a.m., not after a 90-minute commute, just 8 a.m. after a 15-minute walk. She wore business casual clothes instead of a uniform. Her name badge read, Rosa Mitchell, Facility Manager, instead of just staff. Her boss, Director Patricia Okonkwo, a warm Nigerian woman in her 50s, greeted her every morning. "Good morning, Rosa. How are you today?" Not "get to work," or "you're late," or "what took you so long?" Just a genuine question about her well-being. Rosa managed the community center's maintenance and operations, but she also helped coordinate programs, worked with volunteers, and occasionally taught workshops on financial literacy for low-income families, sharing everything she'd learned the hard way. She had health insurance, paid sick days, a retirement plan, a lunch break that she actually took, eating with coworkers who asked about Lily and shared pictures of their own kids. One afternoon, Patricia called Rosa into her office. Rosa's heart jumped. Old conditioning, the instinct that being summoned meant punishment. "Sit down, Rosa," Patricia said warmly. I wanted to discuss something with you. Rosa sat, hands clasped, waiting. You've been with us for 2 months now, and your performance has been exceptional. The building has never looked better. The programs run more smoothly, and the feedback from staff and community members has been overwhelmingly positive. Patricia smiled. I'd like to promote you to Assistant Director of Operations. It comes with a raise, expanded responsibilities, and your own office. Rosa blinked. Promoted? Already? You've earned it. You're organized, dedicated, compassionate, and you understand our community because you've lived their struggles. You're exactly who we need in leadership. A raise, a promotion, an office. Things that had been unthinkable 3 months ago were now her reality. Thank you, Rosa managed, her eyes misting. Thank you for seeing me, for believing in me. Patricia reached across the desk and squeezed Rosa's hand. You're easy to believe in, my dear. Now go tell your daughter she should be proud of her mama. Lily's transformation was perhaps even more remarkable than Rosa's. The nightmares had lasted for the first month. Vivid dreams of the mean man, of blood, of running. She'd wake up screaming, and Rosa would hold her, singing softly, until she fell back asleep. Sarah Lynn, a child psychologist who specialized in trauma and worked on a sliding scale that the Victims' Compensation Fund covered, had been working with Lily twice a week. She's remarkably resilient, Dr. Lynn told Rosa after their 8th session. The fact that she took action, that she ran for help instead of freezing, gave her a sense of agency. She didn't just witness trauma, she did something about it. That's powerful for a child's recovery. The art therapy was helping too. Lily's drawings had evolved from dark images of fear to bright scenes of hope. She drew pictures of her new apartment, of the bikers, of her mama smiling, really smiling, not the fake smile Lily had learned to recognize. School was better too. Lily's teachers at Riverside Elementary noticed the change immediately. The quiet, withdrawn girl who used to sit alone at lunch was now participating in class, making friends, joining the after-school art club. One afternoon, Lily came home with a ribbon, blue, for first place, from the school art competition. Mama, look, I won! She thrust a certificate and the ribbon toward Rosa. The winning drawing was titled My Heroes and showed 4 large figures on motorcycles surrounding a small girl and her mother. The figures wore halos made of motorcycle wheels. This is beautiful, baby, Rosa said, her throat tight. I'm so proud of you. Mr. Priest said I should enter it. He said my art tells important stories. Priest had been teaching Lily to ride a bike, with training wheels, on Sunday afternoons in the park. The first time she'd made it 10 feet without wobbling, she'd screamed with joy, and Priest had high-fived her with a grin that made him look 20 years younger. Tank had taken to packing Lily's lunch on Mondays, terrible sandwiches with too much mustard and encouraging notes written in messy handwriting. You're awesome, kiddo, and today's gonna be great. Hawk taught her to draw motorcycles with proper perspective, spending patient hours showing her angles and shading techniques. Ryder had built her a castle bookshelf, and every week he'd add a new book to it, always with a note inside the cover. For the bravest princess in the kingdom. They weren't trying to replace Marcus. They were just there. Solid, dependable, kind. The family that chose them. Every Sunday at 9 a.m., the Road Angels gathered at Millie's Diner for breakfast. It had been a club tradition for years, but now it included Rosa and Lily. They always took the big corner booth, designed for 6 but somehow fitting 8. With Lily in the middle, flanked by Priest and Rosa, surrounded by the men who'd become her uncles. This particular Sunday, Millie herself, a 70-year-old woman who'd run the diner for 40 years, brought out a special plate of pancakes for Lily, shaped like a motorcycle. "On the house," Millie said, winking. "For our local hero." Lily giggled, immediately drowning the pancake motorcycle in syrup while the adults talked. "How's the new job, Rosa?" Tank asked, syrup dripping into his gray beard. "Amazing," Rosa said, and meant it. "Patricia just promoted me to assistant director." Cheers erupted around the table, loud enough to make other diners turn and smile. "That's our goal," Hawk said, raising his coffee mug. "Moving up in the world." "You deserve it," Priest added. "You've worked harder than anyone I know." Rosa felt her cheeks warm. "I just show up and do my job. Nothing special." "That's where you're wrong," Ryder said. "After everything you've been through, the fact that you get up every day, take care of your kid, work hard, and still find reasons to smile, that's everything special." Lily looked up from her syrup-soaked pancakes. "My mama is the best mama in the whole world." "Damn right she is," Tank agreed, then caught himself. "Sorry, Tito. Darn right she is." Lily giggled. "It's okay, Mr. Tank. Mama says you have a good heart, even when your words are bad." The table erupted in laughter, and Tank's ears turned red. As they ate, the conversation flowed easily. Hawk's motorcycle needed a new part. Ryder was building a deck for a widow down the street. Tank was teaching a self-defense class for women at the community center. Priest was testifying at the state legislature next week about domestic worker protection laws. "Wait, what?" Rosa set down her fork. "You're testifying?" Priest shrugged like it was no big deal. "Yeah, they're working on new legislation, mandatory reporting requirements for domestic workers, anonymous hotlines, regular check-ins by social services. They wanted someone to speak about why it matters. I volunteered." "And you didn't tell me?" "Didn't want to make a big thing of it. But," he paused, choosing his words carefully, "I'm going to talk about Maria, about you, about how the system failed both of you, and how we need to do better. If that's okay with you." Rosa reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "It's more than okay. Thank you for turning our pain into something that might help others." "That's what family does," Priest said simply. Lily, listening to all of this with the intensity children have when they know something important is happening, piped up. "Are you my family now? Like my real family?" Tank ruffled her hair gently. "What do you think, kiddo?" "I think yes," Lily said seriously. "Because family is people who love you and protect you and make terrible sandwiches." She grinned at Tank, who clutched his chest in mock offense. "My sandwiches are art." "They're terrible, Hawk muttered, and the table dissolved into laughter again. 2 weeks after that breakfast, Priest was going through Maria's belongings, something he did periodically, keeping her memory close, when he found an old box in the back of his closet. Inside were her personal documents, birth certificate, social security card, old tax returns, and employment records. He'd looked through these before, but this time something caught his eye. An old pay stub, yellowed with age, dated 10 years ago. Employer, Westbrook Estate Management, LLC. Priest's blood ran cold. He pulled out his phone, hands shaking, and called Detective Chen. "Chen," she answered. "Detective, it's Marcus Donovan. I need to ask you something about Vincent Westbrook. 10 years ago, did he have any employees named Maria Donovan?" A pause. "Give me a minute to check old records." A pause. Priest waited, his heart pounding, knowing and not wanting to know. "Yeah," Chen came back on the line. Maria Donovan, employed as household staff from March 2013 to August 2013. Signed an NDA upon termination. Why? Priest sat down heavily. That was my sister, the one I told you about. She worked for Vincent Westbrook. He was the one who abused her. He's the reason she's dead. Another pause, longer this time. Jesus, Marcus, I'm so sorry. All this time, Priest said, his voice rough. I've been looking for the person who hurt her, and it was him. When Rosa and Lily came to us, when I rescued them, I was saving my sister. 10 years too late, but I was finally saving her. You saved them both, Chen said gently. And in the process, you stopped him from hurting anyone else. Your sister would be proud. After hanging up, Priest sat in silence for a long time. Then he pulled out the photograph he kept of Maria. Bright smile, hopeful eyes, her whole life ahead of her. I got him, sis, he whispered. I finally got him. I'm sorry I couldn't save you, but I saved someone else's sister, someone else's mother. And I'm going to make sure he never hurts anyone again. He didn't tell Rosa about this discovery. Not yet. Maybe someday, when enough time had passed, when the wounds weren't so fresh. But for now, it was enough to know that Maria's death hadn't been in vain. That her story, combined with Rosa's courage and Lily's bravery, had finally brought down a monster. The Lakeside Community Center hosted an art show in late November, Children of Courage, featuring drawings and paintings by children who'd witnessed or experienced trauma and found healing. Lily's pieces were featured prominently, 3 drawings that told a complete story. The first, displayed in a simple black frame, was the original drawing she'd clutched while running for help. Dark, urgent, heartbreaking. The caption read, "The day I found my voice, Lily Mitchell, age 6. The second showed the moment the bikers arrived. Motorcycles, large figures, a small girl being protected. Brighter colors, hope emerging from darkness. Caption, When Angels Came. The third was her newest work, done just last week. A bright, joyful scene of her new apartment, her mama smiling, and surrounding them, drawn with careful love, were the faces of the road angels. Caption, My Real Family. Afternoon. The exhibit opened on a Saturday afternoon. Rosa wore a dress, not a uniform, a dress, that Patricia had helped her pick out. Lily wore a purple dress with sparkles that Millie had bought her specifically for this occasion. The turnout was overwhelming. Community members, survivors of abuse, reporters, and importantly, legislators who were working on the Domestic Worker Protection Act, informally being called Rosa's Law. Priest stood in the back with his crew, uncomfortable with the attention, but present nonetheless. They wore their leather vests, not hiding who they were, not apologizing for how they looked, but underneath, each had worn a button that said Survivor Advocate. A reporter approached Rosa. Mrs. Mitchell, how does it feel to see your daughter's art displayed like this? Rosa looked at the 3 drawings, at the visual journey from terror to hope. It feels like closure, like we're not hiding anymore, like our story matters. It does matter, the reporter said. Your case has sparked conversations across the state about worker protection. 6 other victims have come forward with similar stories about different employers. The DA's office has created a task force specifically for economic abuse cases. You've started something important. Across the room, a woman in her 30s approached hesitantly. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm Sophie Chen. I was one of Vincent's former employees. 3 years ago, I saw you on the news, and I finally found the courage to come forward, to break my NDA, to tell the truth. Thank you for being brave first. Rosa hugged her. This stranger, who was also a sister in survival. Thank you for being brave second. and third and fourth, and however many of us there are, we're stronger together. By the end of the evening, Rosa had met 4 other survivors. They exchanged numbers, talked about starting a support group, about being voices for others who couldn't speak yet. Lily, exhausted from all the attention, was asleep in Priest's arms. He carried her, like she weighed nothing, her small hand clutching his vest, even in sleep. "She's got you wrapped around her little finger," Rosa said, smiling. "She's earned it," Priest replied. "This kid changed the world. She just doesn't know it yet." Vincent Westbrook's trial lasted 2 weeks. Rosa testified for 4 hours, recounting every incident, every threat, every moment of fear. It was exhausting and cathartic. 5 other victims testified too. A pattern emerged so clear that even Vincent's expensive lawyers couldn't obscure it. The security footage played on a loop, 2 years of abuse, documented in high definition. Daniel Park testified about why he'd kept the copies, about recognizing abuse and wanting to help but not knowing how. Detective Chen presented the evidence systematically, building a case that was airtight. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty on all counts. Vincent showed no emotion as the verdict was read, but Rosa saw the moment his facade cracked, a slight tremor in his hands, a tightness around his eyes. Fear. Real fear. The judge sentenced him to 8 years in state prison, no early parole, with an additional requirement to pay restitution to all victims from his personal assets. "Mr. Westbrook," the judge said, her voice carrying the weight of justice, "you used your wealth and position to create a system of abuse. You exploited vulnerable workers, silenced them through intimidation and illegal contracts, and showed no remorse for your actions. This sentence reflects not just the harm you caused these specific victims, but the broader harm you caused to the principle that all people deserve dignity and safety in their workplace." As Vincent was led away in handcuffs again, Rosa felt something release in her chest. Not satisfaction exactly. Not revenge. Just closure. The man who'd haunted her nightmares was going somewhere he couldn't hurt anyone for a very long time. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Rosa made a brief statement. "Today, justice was served. Not just for me, but for every worker who's been abused, threatened, or silenced. For every person who thought they had no choice but to endure mistreatment because they needed to survive." Vincent Westbrook will spend 8 years in prison. But more importantly, we've changed laws. We've started conversations. We've shown other victims that they're not alone and that speaking up matters. That's the real victory. Priest stood beside her, along with the other road angels, a silent wall of support. A reporter called out, "Mr. Donovan, what's next for the road angels?" Priest stepped forward slightly. "We keep doing what we do. We keep helping people who need help. We keep being the people who show up when someone's scared and desperate. Because that's what Maria would have wanted. That's what Rosa and Lily deserve. And that's what the next person who needs us deserves too." "How many people have you helped now?" Priest glanced at Tank, who kept the records. Tank spoke up. 73 victims of domestic or workplace abuse in the last 3 years. We provide safe housing, legal referrals, protection, and support. We don't do it for recognition. We do it because it's right. The questions continued, but Rosa was focused on Lily, who was drawing in a notebook. Always drawing now, processing her world through art. "What are you drawing, baby?" Lily held up the page. It showed a courthouse with a large check mark over it, and beneath it, words in careful letters. "The end of the mean man." the beginning of happy. Rosa hugged her daughter tightly. Yeah, baby, the beginning of happy. The anniversary of the day everything changed, as they called it now, fell on a Tuesday. Rosa took the day off from work. She and Lily visited Marcus's grave first, laying flowers and telling him about everything that had happened. I wish you could see her, Marcus, Rosa whispered, her hand on the cool marble headstone. She's so brave, so strong. She saved us both. And I think you sent those bikers to us. I think you kept your promise to always protect us, even from heaven. Lily placed her small hand on the gravestone. Hi, Daddy. I miss you. But Mama says you're always watching. And I think you'd like my new uncles. They're really nice. And they teach me stuff and make Mama smile. Is that okay? The wind rustled through the trees, and Rosa chose to believe it was Marcus saying yes. Afterward, they went to Millie's diner for their Sunday breakfast tradition. Even though it was Tuesday, the whole crew was there, a special gathering to mark the anniversary. 1 year ago, Priest said, raising his coffee mug, a brave little girl ran into the street asking for help, and she changed everything. Changed Rosa's life, changed our lives, changed the whole damn system. Language, Tank muttered, glancing at Lily. Sorry, changed the whole darn system, Priest corrected with a smile. Here's to Lily Mitchell, the bravest now 7-year-old I know, and to her mama, who found the strength to speak her truth, and to all the people we've helped because of their courage. To second chances. To second chances, they echoed, mugs and juice boxes clinking together. Lily beamed, then grew serious. Can I say something? Of course, sweetheart, Rosa encouraged. Lily stood on the booth seat so everyone could see her. I was really scared that day. I thought the mean man was going to hurt Mama, really bad. But I remembered something Daddy told me before he went to heaven. He said that angels come when you need them most, and they don't always look like you expect. She looked at each of the bikers in turn. You all look scary to other people, with your tattoos and your big motorcycles and your loud voices. But you're not scary. You're the angels Daddy promised. You saved my mama. You saved me. And now you're my family. There wasn't a dry eye at the table. Tank wiped his face with his napkin. Hawk suddenly found his coffee very interesting. Ryder cleared his throat roughly. Even Priest's eyes were suspiciously bright. Come here, kiddo, Priest said, his voice gruff. Lily climbed over and hugged him, and suddenly all the bikers were group hugging, this tiny girl at the center of a wall of leather and muscle and unconditional love. We're your family, Priest confirmed. Always, no matter what, you need us. We're there. That's a promise. Passage forever and ever? Lily asked. Even when I'm old, Lily persisted. Even when you're old and we're older and our bikes don't run anymore. Hawk promised. Deal, Lily said solemnly, as if they'd just made a binding contract. Which in the ways that mattered most, they had. The Domestic Worker Protection Act, Rosa's law, passed the state legislature with bipartisan support and was signed into law 9 months after the incident. It mandated anonymous hotlines for domestic workers to report abuse, regular check-ins by social services for live-in staff, strict regulations on NDAs, no longer enforceable if obtained under duress, mandatory security cameras in all staff areas of private residences, severe penalties for employers who retaliate against workers who report abuse, a victims' compensation fund for abused workers. Within a year, 15 other states had adopted similar legislation. The Road Angels MC officially became a 501c3 nonprofit. Road Angels Survivor Advocacy Network. They expanded to 8 cities, helping an average of 6 people per month escape abusive situations. Priest, testified before Congress about the intersection of economic vulnerability and abuse, becoming an unlikely advocate for worker protection laws. P. Rosa became the director of the Lakeside Community Center after Patricia retired. She started a support group for abuse survivors that met every Thursday evening. 23 regular members, growing every month. P. Lily's art was featured in a national traveling exhibit about children's resilience. 3 of her pieces were purchased by a museum, with the proceeds going into her college fund. P. Vincent Westbrook served his full 8-year sentence. His real estate empire collapsed without him. Assets liquidated to pay victim compensation. The mansion, that symbol of wealth and cruelty, was purchased by a non-profit and converted into a shelter for domestic abuse survivors. The irony was not lost on anyone. Sophie Chen, one of Vincent's former victims who'd come forward, became a lawyer specializing in labor law. She provided free legal services to domestic workers, citing Rosa's courage as her inspiration. Daniel Park, the IT consultant who documented everything, started a company that provided free security systems to women's shelters and safe houses. The ripples spread outward, each person touched by Rosa and Lily's story passing the courage forward. 2 years after everything changed, a typical Sunday morning at Millie's Diner. The corner booth was crowded as always. Rosa, Lily, now 8, Priest, Tank, Hawk, Ryder, and 2 new additions, Sophie and her daughter Emma. Also an abuse survivor the Road Angels had helped 6 months ago. Lily and Emma were teaching each other to draw motorcycles on paper placemats, while the adults talked about ordinary things, work, weather, the upcoming motorcycle rally for charity. "Mama," Lily said suddenly, looking up from her drawing, "do you remember when we were scared all the time?" The table went quiet. "I do, baby," Rosa said gently. "Why do you ask?" "Because I can't really remember what it felt like anymore. Like, I know it happened, but it feels like a story about someone else. Is that bad?" Rosa cupped her daughter's face. "No, sweetheart. That's healing. That's what happens when you're safe and loved for long enough. The bad memories lose their power." "Good," Lily said, satisfied, "because I like remembering the good stuff better. Like Sunday pancakes, and Mr. Tank's terrible sandwiches, and learning to ride my bike with Mr. Priest, and the castle bookshelf Mr. Ryder made me." "Hey," Tank protested without heat. "My sandwiches are improving." "They're really not," Hawk said, and everyone laughed. Rosa looked around the table at her found family. These rough men with soft hearts, this community of survivors supporting each other. This little girl who'd saved them all by finding the courage to ask for help. "What are you thinking, Mama?" Lily asked, the same question she'd asked 2 years ago. Rosa smiled, the kind of smile that reaches all the way to your eyes and stays there. "I'm thinking that angels don't always have wings. Sometimes they have engines, sometimes they wear leather and have tattoos and look nothing like what you'd expect. But they show up when you need them most, and they stay." Priest raised his coffee mug. "To showing up. To staying," Tank added. "To family," Hawk continued. "To second chances," Ryder finished. "To pancakes," Lily shouted, making everyone laugh. They clinked their mugs and glasses and juice boxes together. The sound of ordinary joy in an ordinary diner on an ordinary Sunday morning. But there was nothing ordinary about what they'd built together. This patchwork family, forged in crisis and strengthened by choice. This community of people who'd looked evil in the face and said not today, not ever again. Outside, their motorcycles lined the curb, chrome glinting in the morning sun. Not symbols of danger or rebellion, but guardians, protectors. A reminder that help can come from unexpected places if you're brave enough to ask for it. And inside, A little girl drew pictures of her family, the one she was born into, and the one that chose her, while her mama laughed and felt, perhaps, for the first time in her adult life, completely and entirely free. Because here's the truth that Rosa Mitchell learned, and that we all need to remember. The people society tells you to fear, the ones who look different, sound different, live different, are sometimes the very people who will save your life. Abuse doesn't only happen behind closed doors in domestic relationships. It happens in workplaces. It happens when someone has power over you. Economic power, social power, legal power, and they choose to wield it as a weapon instead of a responsibility. And sometimes, justice delayed isn't justice denied. Sometimes it's just justice finding the right moment, gathering the right people, building the right case. Rosa stayed in an abusive job for 4 years because she thought she had no choice, because the system was designed to trap people like her, people who needed to survive, people with dependents, people who'd signed papers they didn't fully understand. But one moment of courage, one little girl running for help, one group of bikers choosing to answer that call, changed everything. Not just for Rosa and Lily, but for 73 other victims the Road Angels have helped since. For the 6 states that have passed similar protection laws. For the hundreds of domestic workers who now have hotlines to call, rights to exercise, protections to claim. One moment, one choice, one person deciding that someone else's pain mattered more than their own comfort. That's how change happens, not through grand gestures or perfect heroes, but through ordinary people doing the right thing when it would be easier to do nothing. Marcus Priest Donovan didn't help Rosa because he was a saint. He helped her because he'd failed to help his sister, and he refused to fail again. He carried that guilt and turned it into purpose. Tank, Hawk, and Ryder didn't help because they were looking for recognition. They helped because they'd all been broken by war and rebuilt by brotherhood, and they understood that protecting people was the highest calling there is. And Lily, 6-year-old Lily Mitchell, didn't run for help because she was fearless. She ran because she was terrified and did it anyway, because she loved her mama more than she feared the unknown. That's courage, not the absence of fear, but action in spite of it. So if you're in a situation like Rosa was, trapped, scared, thinking you have no options, please hear this. You matter. Your safety matters. Your dignity matters. There are people who will help if you ask. Hotlines, shelters, advocates, sometimes even strangers on motorcycles. And if you're in a position to help someone else, if you see something that doesn't seem right, if you hear a cry for help, if you witness abuse or exploitation, don't assume someone else will handle it. Be the someone else. Be the person who shows up. Be the biker who stops when a child is crying. Be the IT consultant who documents the evidence. Be the neighbor who calls the police. Be the detective who builds the case. Be the community that rallies around survivors. Because sometimes, the difference between a tragedy and a triumph is just one person deciding that someone else's safety is worth their involvement. Rosa and Lily are free now. Vincent Westbrook is in prison. The system has been changed, even if just a little. And the Road Angels continue riding, ready to answer the next call for help. This isn't a fairy tale. It's a true story that happened because people chose courage over comfort, action over apathy, justice over silence. And it can happen again. It should happen again. It must happen again. For every Rosa still trapped, for every Lily still scared, for every Maria who didn't make it. Show up, stay, protect, advocate, change the system. Be the angel someone needs, even if you've got tattoos and leather and a past that makes respectable people nervous. Because sometimes, the most dangerous-looking people are the safest hands to fall into. And sometimes, the people who save your life are the ones you never expected to meet. If this story moved you, here's what you can do right now. Subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. We research and share stories that matter. Stories that restore faith in humanity. Stories that spark change. Like this video if you believe that everyone deserves safety and dignity in their workplace. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Whether they're in an abusive situation and need hope, or they're in a position to help and need inspiration. Comment below and tell us, where are you watching from? Have you ever witnessed abuse and wished you'd done more? Have you ever been helped by an unexpected stranger? What changes need to happen in your community to protect vulnerable workers? Your engagement doesn't just help this channel, it keeps these conversations alive. It reminds other survivors they're not alone. It encourages potential helpers to take action. It pressures systems to change.